Welcome back, Facebook and YouTube. Bro Sanchez speaking. This is going to be a very powerful video, especially for my African American brothers and sisters that's on a journey to regain their true history and their true origins. This is going to be a very powerful video for everyone under the sound of my voice. Now, what you're looking at is the ancient Kemetic cosmos. What you're looking at is the sky goddess Nut and the earth god GEB below, laid out representing the earth plane. And the sky god is Nut you see above him in his arch position. Before we get deep into this, one thing we have to keep in mind is that when we talk about gods and goddesses, we're always talking about cosmology. It's impossible to talk God and goddess without talking cosmology. And when we say cosmology, we're talking cosmos with the word ology. And in a nutshell, simply means one view or depiction of the cosmos. There are many views and many cosmologies, but right now we're going to focus on this particular cosmology with the sky goddess Nut and the earth god GEB. Again, before we get deep into it, some basic things we want to point out about it is right off the back, my brothers and sisters. One thing we got to grasp about this cosmology is that it's not a globe, and anyone that's going to deny that right now is really going to look foolish. This is not a globe that we are looking at, okay? The earth god GEB is represented, laid out as a flat plane, and we can see that the sky is arched for a reason. Our ancestors made the sky goddess Nut in the shape of this arch all over the place, and they did it specifically for a reason. And as we get deep into this, you're gonna see what that reason is. The basic reason for that was the fact that our ancestors understood that they were enclosed inside of a dome. And if you look at this cosmology in front of you, my brothers and sisters, and get rid of your ego and have an open mind and just think with me, okay? Where is all the life in this cosmology? It's on the inside, okay? The sky goddess Nut is protecting the life that's on the inside of this whole cosmos, and GEB is representative of all that life that is on the earth plane. Now, what you must keep in mind is that this is not the oldest cosmology. And when we talk about ancient Kemet, we're not talking about the oldest. We have to go so many more years back beyond Kemet before we can say the word old or ancient, brothers and sisters. We say the word a lot, but trust me, this cosmology can go back farther than most of you think. With that being said, what you're looking at now is not the oldest cosmology. Towards the end, we're going to get a little bit into Kushite cosmology, because everything in Egypt, or what we call ancient Kemet, descendant from Ethiopia or Kush. Okay, so you have the Kemite Empire, you have the Kushite Empire, which predates Kemet. There would not be a Kemet if there wasn't for a Kush. So Kush is the beginning of what we call Egyptian culture or Kemetic culture. So to understand the true cosmology, we got to go all the way back to the source. But what we're looking at today is so important because it actually marks the beginning of this type cosmology that you see in front of you. Now, this type cosmology that you see in front of you is flat earth cosmology. It was not only the cosmology of our ancient Kemetic ancestors, but it was also the cosmology of many cultures. And the significance about this cosmology, and why I'm taking the time to do the video on it, is because this is the most recent and consistent cosmology that we find among all of the ancient cultures across the world, and it's very consistent, this design. So like I said, our ancestors made the sky goddess Nut bent in this position for a reason, and GEB is laid out that way for a reason, okay? Our ancestors did not believe in a spherical globe. The globe was given to our ancient Kemetic ancestors during the same time that the Bible and the early Christians and European invaders settled on the land. Understand that the globe was never an African concept, and you cannot find any indigenous culture or any African art that will depict you a heliocentric solar system. Also, no one in the Black conscious community can produce for Brother Sanchez any hieroglyphics that came from Kush or Kemet of a solar system or Earth as a globe. You cannot find it, ladies and gentlemen. So why don't we admit that our ancestors were flat earthers and that our ancestors did not believe in a globe? The globe came to our people from the invaders, and the globe goes hand in hand with the Bible. Bible, people. You must understand that even the first Christians didn't have a globe. When we talk Ptolemy, which was some of the first invaders on our ancestors' land, they didn't even have the globe yet. Those first Greeks even had flat earth cosmology that they learned from our ancestors. It didn't turn into the globe until later, until they found out how to make a good slave. So understanding the cosmology gets real deep when it comes to knowing thyself and understanding our true history. Because part of what made us the slaves we are today was when the invaders gave us the globe. The first solar system was made in the image of the hypnotization spiral, and it was made to take away our true cosmology. Why was there an importance to take away our true cosmology, African people? Because, like I said, our gods and goddesses is linked to the cosmology. Our spirituality is tied and woven into the cosmology. Our ancient ancestors did not separate spirituality from cosmology. So you cannot understand the spirituality until you understand the cosmology. So with that being said, let's get into this ancient Kemetic cosmology. And again, remember, this is not the oldest cosmology. First thing we want to realize about ancient cosmology is that all ancient cosmology is centered around the cosmic mother. And the reason this is important is because all ancient cosmos stories are centered around the birth of a cosmic egg. And this cosmic egg is always birthed from the womb, or what's called the cosmic womb, that belonged to the cosmic mother. This later became the Milky Way galaxy and everything that they give us today. So people, we got to understand that our history has been hidden behind the cosmology. The history you have about you getting out of a slave ship, and the history we have about all of the pharaohs and Thutmoses and all of these dynasties in Kemet is nothing, people. You want to get deep into your history, African people, you got to go to the cosmology, because the true origins of the human being lies in the cosmology. So when we talk about the goddess Nut, the first thing we want to keep in mind is that she is one of the first mother goddesses. When we talk about the earth god GEB, we're talking about this whole cosmos that we see with Nut and GEB was made during a time where there was a blending of the patriarch and matriarch. When we say matriarch, we're talking about a cosmology that's centered strictly around female energy only, all right? And that female energy gives birth to everything that's male, just like we see in our real reality. That's why this is the earliest cosmology that you will find anywhere on our beautiful flat earth, because the ancestors looked at reality as above, so below. We ignore reality today and we accept theories. All around the world, ever since we was born, the only thing we can prove with our own two eyes is that every human being come from a mother. And we throw around this term as above, so below so much. And if we say every human being come from a mother, then everything in existence come from a mother. And this is the simple truth that our ancestors knew. So when you see the sky goddess Nut, it's very important, because this isn't the earliest cosmos. This was during the time where they blended the goddess with the god to give you the cosmology. Everything prior to this blending period was simply the goddesses creating the cosmology. Later on, after the blending of the patriarch and the matriarch, you can see where eventually the woman was completely deleted. And today we strictly have males dominating the cosmology and responsible for the creation of the cosmology, and they have completely deleted the woman from the cosmology. When we go into this cosmology of Nut and GEB, keep in mind we're in the intermediate period. This is still during the dynastic era, and this is during the time where invasions had already taken place. There were many gender wars. The ego was rising very strong amongst the males, and the male energy was getting very rebellious in the matriarch system. So what happened during this intermediate period, there was a sharing of the gods and the goddesses. Later on, like I said, you see where Ra and all of the male deities like Anubis and Set and all of these deities, they begin to dominate the cosmology and Kemetic history, and you see less and less of the ancient goddesses that predated all of the male deities, okay? Because the first deities who wore the solar disk were the goddesses, not Ra, but Sekhmet, and Sekhmet was the goddess of life and death, and she wore the solar disk, not the sun's spear. So our cosmology was changed when we was given the sun as a spear. Our ancient Kemetic ancestors never called the sun a spear. They always called it a solar disk, and you never see it as a spear. They always depicted it as a disk. Also on this cosmology, you can see our ancestors taking the cosmic journey on the outside of the goddess Nut. You can see them in boats traveling the stars. This has nothing to do with Orion. These boats are there because Nut is a solid barrier. Nut represents the firmament dome, okay? That's why she's enclosing all of that life inside of her. The word firmament, the root word of the word firmament is firm. That's where we get the Ark of the Covenant from. It's not the Ark of the Covenant. They got everybody looking for this silly little treasure. It's the Arch of the Covenant, because the arch that Nut is making with her back. When the cosmic egg was created, the waters was separated from the waters, just like the Bible say. The dome was created to hold the waters on the outside back. Now, the first flood took place when the waters was created. That was before any life inhabited the earth. There was no earth yet, because the first thing there was the waters. And the waters had to be separated from the waters because there's different types of waters. The first waters in existence were the primordial waters of Nu. This is where you get the sky goddess Nut from, okay? Like I said, this is not the oldest cosmology. Everything began from the primordial waters of Nu. The goddess Nu later became the sky goddess Nut during this blending period. And then we had the earth god, which is GEB. You never had no gods. You always had goddesses during the earliest cosmologies. This is because the man came later. Everyone knows that this earth plane was inhabited solely by women only. There are more women on the planet than there are men today. And also we can prove that the X chromosome is older than the Y and it predates the Y. Also today, both man and woman still comes from the womb of woman. All right, we can't deny this. So there is a cosmic mother that our ancestors spoke of, and that cosmic mother later became the sky goddess Nut, like I said, in this blending period where she shared the throne with the earth god GEB, because during this time the man was wanting more power in society, sort of like what the women went through during the women's rights movement. We got to understand history repeats itself, and there's a yin to every yang. In the beginning there was women. Man is a result of the immaculate conception of those early women. The immaculate conception story is a literal story of what we call the male species coming into existence. Throughout the years, man wanted more and more power because there was a matriarch society, sort of like a beehive with the queen bee. Since the mothers was the first one here, and the mothers were the first teachers of the man, and that's still true to this day. Everyone's first teacher is their mother, all right? But what happened, to make a long story short, over time there were gender wars where the men wanted to get on the throne, and that's how we end up with cosmologies like we see with the sky goddess Nut here and the earth god GEB. Like I said, Nut come from the earliest mother goddess Nu, which was the representative of the primordial waters, those waters where everything started from. Those waters were separated by the dome, or the firmament dome, which was the arch of the covenant. In other words, when the Most High created solid land, because the solid land come up from the water. That's what most people don't realize. All of the solid land rose from the water. The first thing in existence was all of the waters, and the land rose up from the water. Just like if you think of a mother represents the water, and the son she gives birth to can represent the land that comes from the womb. We see this same thing happening in the oceans today when these volcanoes under the water spits up the lava that cools and creates new land from the water. This ain't nothing new. This is how land is created. I'm gonna get into that because this volcanic activity has nothing to do with a globe. This planet gets real interesting as we get into ancient cosmology. A lot of truth has been hidden from us in the cosmology, and this is another reason why this is so important. Remember, the Ark of the Covenant is the arch of the covenant, and during the first phases of creation, the waters had to be separated separated. So there is waters above the dome. All of the ancients spoke about this, as above, so below. And this is why when you look at the sky goddess Nut, you see boats outside of the stars, because there's water out there, people. There's water. What we're calling space don't exist. There is no such thing as space. There is no void, emptiness in between us and the Most High. There's liquid. And when we talk liquid, we're talking the life substance. We're talking when a woman water break, it's time for her to give birth. All of the water that surrounds the earth plane is the same science. As above, so below, people. It's the same thing represented in the cosmology. The earth is solid ground that's surrounded by waters. We're in a cosmic egg and it's hollow. And there is a spherical aspect to it. But as you can see in all of these cosmos depictions, you only see this dome shape because this is just a simplified way. Like I said, this is the most recent form of this cosmology. The scarab beetle is another form of this cosmology, and that scarab beetle later became the bee goddess and also the Dogon Kananga. So this cosmology is represented amongst all of these indigenous tribes and cultures. It's the oldest cosmology based around matriarch cosmology, or the mother goddess, and it's also based around a flat earth. This cosmology will not work with the Helios globe that they gave us to hide this cosmology with. All right, so when we look at the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb, we can see the ancestors on the outside of the firmament taking their cosmic journey. I went over the cosmic journey in previous videos. I'll be going over it more in future videos. The journey of the afterlife. We travel within this cosmic egg. Now, what happened with the creation of the Helios globe and the solar system was all of the stargates and the wormholes and the spookism and the sci-fi crap that they gave us, that they say when we pass on, we got to travel through this spooky, chaotic universe. And that's the reason for a lot of psychological disorders that we face today, because when we inject this chaotic ideology into our spirits, it's very detrimental. If you believe in outer space and that when you die, your soul is going to be lost in a void of darkness with floating celestial beings that are horrific. Because when we talk planets, we're talking about horrific places that NASA is describing to you, where there is no balance, there is just chaos and atmospheres that is just frightening. And they tell you upon death, you got to travel back to some Sirius constellation through all of this chaos. Our ancestors didn't have the indoctrination of this bottomless pit solar system that most of our African brothers and sisters have today. Our African ancestors had a peaceful cosmology, and you can see it here with the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb. This is the remnants of flat earth cosmology during the blending period. This was right before the crap hit the fan and the males took over completely. So keep that in mind, that the sky goddess Nut represents an earliest form of the mother goddess Nu, which represents the earliest primordial waters that gave birth to the entire cosmos. When we talk mother goddess and we talk the earth being the cosmic egg, and we talk about the waters being broken and the waters being separated from the waters, that was the covenant that was made, people. So when the earth was conceived, the solid ground, when that child was born, when Geb was born from the waters, when those waters broke, there was a covenant that was made, that those waters above would never ever flood the earth again, because there's no need. The creation is already created, and the water that we need for this cosmic egg was already provided from above. So when you look at the earth plane, you can see that what we call the creator is Ma'at, or balance. It's a balanced mother goddess that created this whole cosmic egg out of balance, or gave birth to this egg out of balance. When we say balance, we're saying balance, and that's how we get this entire ancient cosmos, with the earth plane in the middle, what they call Midgard, and the human being being the medium. When you take the cosmic journey, you always come back to the earth plane, because this is the midway point where the medium has this experience, what we call life at. This is where existence takes place. You don't live in the heavens above or the underworld below. These are transitioning areas. These are areas story is what the soul journeyed through to get back to the midpoint. The midpoint represents heaven. When you say the word heaven, the H is silent. And when you take the H off, you get the word even. And when we talk about even, this can go all the way back to Eve. Eve was desecrated. She represents this mother goddess cosmology. The name Eve itself is a balanced name because it's as above, so below. E-V-E. If you flip it around, it'll be the same name. That's the magic of Eve, and that's the significance of evening. It's where the day meets the night. It's balance. So when we say balance, we're talking about a lanced ball, or the cosmic egg that was created by the mother. I'm giving you back your true origins, my people. All you have to do is lose your ego and accept it. Now let's move on some more. One thing I'm going to point out is the reason why all of your Ma'at depictions are women. You will never see a male Ma'at because women represent the original balance. The X chromosome is nothing but the first yin yang in existence. And X is a symbol of balance. It's as above, so below. Two V's on opposing sides, all right? That's what we represent when we look at the name Eve. The same concept of as above, so below. The woman represents creation, the life-bringing force. And this was all desecrated when you were given the globe because they told you that the sun gave birth to the earth. That's backwards, my people. All ancient cosmology speak about the sun and moon being created to serve the earth. Even if you look at the sky goddess Nut right here, she's protecting Geb. She's enclosed herself around him, okay? And you can see the stars. Geb represents Earth. So if you were standing up on Geb looking up at the stars, you would see a dome-type night sky. And that's exactly what we see. So we can prove that this depiction we looking at of an ancient Kemetic flat earth cosmology, not a globe, is true because all of the stars in our night sky, they make a circular orbit around a stationary north star. When you look at a rainbow, that's proof that you're enclosed in a spherical dome. The stars make this same circular orbit as well as the sun and moon. They make spiral circuits, a 6-9 orbit, and that's how we get the yin yang, all right? It represents the orbit of the sun and moon, the circular orbit. So we are enclosed in a spherical dome, just like you see the sky goddess Nut, and the earth is flat, just like you see the earth god Geb laid right there. This is proof that our ancestors did not believe in the globe, and they knew that the earth was flat. And as we move on, I'm going to show y'all how secret societies know the earth is flat, and they got this same cosmos that you see with Nut and Geb all in their secret society symbolism. So everybody know the earth is flat, and everybody know the truth about the African cosmology, but African people. Now, when you learn the truth about this cosmology, you will see why it's important, because when you see how deep the deception goes, you will see how early pharaohs sold us out. You will see how the world is ruled by the same liars and evil people today who overthrew the matriarch. They tracing their bloodline down throughout the generations, and they're ruling us by hiding the cosmology from us, people. We'll never get the truth because the true story is hidden in the cosmology. Now, let me get back on track here. The sky goddess Nut is very significant because she represents the primordial waters of Nu, and it became the sky goddess Nut and Geb during the blending of the patriarch and matriarch. Another thing I want to point out to you about the root word Nu is that the root word Nu is also the root word of numbers. The word numbers come from these first goddesses. What we call numbers, all of these symbols that makes up numbers, I got plenty of videos going into these numbers showing you that these are nothing but symbols that makes up different parts of the cosmos and represent different aspects of the cosmos. So I'll do future videos and I'll start from 0 and I'll work my way all the way up to 9, and I'll do the same thing with the alphabets. I will start from A and go to Z, and I will show y'all the symbolism behind each number and alphabet itself, because the numbers and alphabets are symbols themselves that tell a story. So when we say say numbers, the root word of numbers is new, because numbers are more than numerical digits. Each number is a formula and a concept. Just like when you say 7, which we have 7 days of the week, and they told you that the 7th day of the week is when God rested. When we talk about the 7 being a symbol of completion in the 7 days of the week, when you take the first letter of 7, it's the serpent. The serpent is the symbol of balance because it's the center of the yin yang. And when we talk about the word 7, the first alphabet being the S, and then what you have after that is the word even. So 7 is even. 7 rhymes with heaven, and the H in heaven is silent because heaven represents even or balance. Okay, heaven is even. What we're calling heaven, people, simply is balance, y'all. Think of bath water. What's the best bath water? You don't want it freezing cold. That don't feel good. You don't want it flaming hot. That don't feel good. You want it right in the middle. That's balanced bath water. You don't even want to get out of it. You let your skin wrinkle up because it feels so good. Balance, people, is heaven. So understand that even when you look at the 8, which is the symbol of eternity, it's as above, so below, represent balance. When we talk about the letter 8, it's where we get the alphabet H from. When we say H, we're saying 8. 8 and H are the same thing, all right? H and H, the alphabet and the letter, they're the same thing. The H, the alphabet H, represents balance. Look at the symbol. It's 2 lines with a perfect line directly in the middle, 50-50. So H that we use for heaven represents balance. The symbol for H is made 50-50 for balance, for half. So H is half. And if you look at the letter H, it represents half. It represents balance, okay? And like I said, H and 8 are the same. The H is also the 8th alphabet. And this is why the 8 is the symbol of eternity, and heaven begins with the H, which is silent, and it means even, because 8, the number 8, is an even number. It's created with 2 zeros. When you take 2 zeros and stack them, that's an even balance, okay? That's equal. 2 zeros creates this one number called 8 that we use for the symbol of eternity. And that's why the 6-9 is so divine, because 6 plus 9 equals 8. And I know a lot of people like, this Negro can't add, but you're not adding the right way. We're dealing with glyphs right now. We're not adding with digits. We're adding the numbers together in a symbol form. So when you stick the 6 and 9 together, you get the 8, or the yin yang, the symbol for eternity. And when you look at all of these numbers and alphabets like glyphs, you can see what Brother Sanchez is trying to tell you here. 6 plus 9 equals yin yang. 6 plus 9 equals 8. Balance again. 7 just means even. When you spell out 7 and subtract the S, because the S just means balance itself. That's the serpent in the middle of the yin yang. Again, you get even. Just like when you take the H off of heaven, you get even, because the H is just another symbol of balance, just like the serpent at the beginning of the word 7. This stuff can seem complicated, but it's very simple. It's just that we haven't been taught to see everything from a point of totality. Our reality have been segmented by fake planets and false solar systems and Big Bang theories and comets and asteroids and rockets that go nowhere, and they come back and feed us baloney that keeps the truth from us. And the truth is what I'm giving you right now, not what NASA have been teaching us. They indoctrinated us with the globe for a reason, to hide our true human origins, y'all. What I'm telling you right now is very divine, and when you start understanding it, it does a lot to your spirit and mind and the way you perceive your reality. Nothing about the earth will change. The only thing will change is how you define everything. And trust me, when you start to define it with the truth on flat earth cosmology, on what our ancestors were saying, and not the lies that the government been giving us since we was children to create the matrix, then you start living in heaven, because you start to see balance. All right, so back to the balance, which is the ball lanced, or the lance ball. That's our cosmos. So our ancestors was living in heaven because the way they perceived the reality. We live in chaos today because our cosmology is chaotic, and we destroy the planet because as above, so below. The way we perceive what's above us, we perceive it chaotic because of the indoctrination. So we create a chaotic reality day to day and destroy our very beautiful planet that our children have to inherit based on as above, so below. This law is real. So when they gave us this globe back in ancient Africa, y'all, they told us that our ancestors created the globe to make us accept it. Our ancestors was always flat earthers. Everybody was. Even their ancestors was, y'all. The globe was created to create the New World Order. Y'all got to understand that the New World Order was created centuries ago during the Gutenberg printing press and the globe theories, guys. Now, I got future videos coming where I'm going to get into all of that deep. But right now, I just want to stay on this ancient Kemetic cosmology. So when we talk about the sky goddess Nut, we understand that she descended from the primordial waters of the mother goddess Nu. And when we talk about Nu, we're talking about numbers. All numbers were birthed from the zero. This is why all numbers can go back into the zero. This is why zero can go into all the numbers. This is why X represents zero in math. And X is the X chromosome of the mother, because 0 and X are the same thing. All right. When you take a 0 and put an X inside of it, this is what you get all of this Christian and religious symbolism from. Also the Tibetan wheel and a lot of more symbols. It's a simple idea, people. We got to get back to this simple stuff and get out of the complex mumbo jumbo spookism that got us blind. So the 0 is the point of everything. That's what's called the black hole. NASA had to create this black hole because they wanted to hide the mother, y'all. Instead of you saying a black hole, why can't we say the cosmic womb? That makes it now an entity. When you say a black hole, that excludes a creator from your cosmology, and that is anti-ancient world. The barbarians, the people who were new to this cosmology, were the ones who excluded their deity from the cosmos. And that's what we're under today. We're under a cosmos that has no place of God in it. When you look at this ancient Kemetic cosmos, it's nothing like that solar system that most of y'all black power people believe in. Y'all say y'all love ancient Kemet so much, and you looking at this cosmos with Nut and GEB, but yet you will still embrace the solar system with the earth going around the sun that Copernicus made. You can't have them both, people. They're not the same cosmology. This is totally different than this solar system they gave us. So after this video, you're gonna have to make a choice, my brothers and sisters, okay? And that's the choice I made. You got to get from around your ego and understand that the earth is flat. If people want to laugh at you, let them laugh. At least you will have the truth. We are enclosed in a dome. What you want to pay attention to is the etymology as well as the cosmology. So Nut, N-U, the root word of numbers. All numbers were birthed from the 0. So when we talk about the cosmos was made from numbers, when we talk about the root word of numbers being new, when you flip that around, you get un. And un is the root word of universe. What they give you in today's world, we call it the universe or the one verse. It's one existence. But when you talk about the heliocentric cosmology, it's not one existence. They speak of many, many different worlds and many different planets of existence and even different universes and galaxies that you can go to and exist upon. So how can it be a one universe, a one place of existence? That can only be true when you look at ancient cosmology. When you look at ancient cosmology, the only place for existence is the center or earth, which represents heart. Earth and heart are the same word, the same thing. Back in the ancient world, one way they drew the cosmos was the symbol we use today for the heart. The heart inside of your chest do not shape like the heart that you receive at Valentine, people. They made it that to hide the truth from you. The heart is in the center of your chest just like the earth is in the center of the cosmos. Our ancient ancestors used to draw the ancient cosmos in the shape of a heart. So what we use for hearts is really the earth. And it became heart, and it became what we use, and we can relate it to the heart that's in our body. That's because they both represent the same thing, as above, so below, because they both are in the center. This is why they both became to be related, because our heart is in the center of our body, and existence take place in the center of the cosmos, or in the cosmic egg. Just like a yolk in an egg is where the life is at. In our cosmos, life lives in the middle of the earth plane. Anything on the outside of that is just the cosmic journey that the soul takes to always make it back to this midpoint. You don't experience nowhere else but Midgard. So this is where it takes place at. You just transition in the outer realms. It's one big existence. It's one big cosmic egg, and we travel throughout this cosmic egg. We don't travel in different places of the universe like they told us. That will make it multiple places of existence and not a universe or one place of existence. So when we say universe again, we talking about uno. Un is UN, and that comes from new. In you. So when we talk about the waters of Nu, which was the ancient cosmology where everything started from the waters of Nu, and you talk about today, they corrupted that and said all come from a big bang out of nothing, out of darkness, and a universe was born. Really, it's not a universe, it's a new verse in you. They flipped it around and made it when it's really the waters of Nu created this cosmic egg, what they're calling the one verse, or the one verse would be the one flat plane, the checkerboard square plane that you see the Masons with. The earth is a flat infinite plane that stretches on throughout this cosmic egg, as you can see in this ancient cosmology. We live in a very magical existence that's been hidden. When I get into how magical this place is, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. So let's move on and let's look at some more about the sky goddess Nut, because this is important when we talking about the firmament dome. This is where creation started, when the waters was separated from the waters. The alphabet A is the arch itself. This waters is very important because when we go into ancient Chinese cosmology, their cosmos was created by the ancient Chinese mother goddess Nuwa. Now this gonna get into later videos in the future where I get into the Africans' history of Cambodia, why they call us the Asiatic black man, or Naginis, and the Nagas, the serpent people. This gonna tie into all of the serpent wisdom, which is nothing but the wisdom of balance, because the serpent is nothing but the S at the center of the yin yang. Like I told you, the numbers and alphabets are symbols, and the S just represents serpent to the ancestors. It represents balance. The serpent wisdom is what I'm giving you now, the wisdom of heaven, because heaven means even. As we move on and get into more of this cosmology and we deal with the arch dome and the arch of the covenant, this is very important because the sky goddess Nut represents that covenant of that arch that you see her back bent in, letting us know that we can exist in this heavenly abode and don't have to worry about the stability of its design. This was the covenant, ladies and gentlemen. Our ancestors had this cosmos and they had it all over the walls for a reason. Everybody revered this thing for a reason, y'all, because it allowed them to live in peace of their mind. Now, when you look at this cosmology, it's very comforting. You see the sky goddess Nut enclosed over the earth, protecting the life that's there. You see that there's no room in this cosmology for error. There's no room where two planets can clash into one another and an asteroid can hit Earth and we can all die. No, it's impossible when you look at this ancient cosmology. It's just peaceful and serene, and it's so perfect there's no room for error. Now, it's called the firmament. When we talk about the sky goddess Nut, in other religions, she became the firmament. The root word of that is firm. She is a solid barrier, and we can prove this solid barrier exists when we look at rainbows and when I get into Operation Fishbowl in the future. Don't worry, stay tuned. So when we talk about the Ark of the Covenant, we talking about a literal solid barrier that was created by the Most High to enclose us in this beautiful heavenly earth realm. Now, why was this covenant made and why is it so revered around the world? Because, like I said, it gave the ancients a peace of mind, y'all. Today, the main fears that foundates itself in most of our Western ideologies that's based and centered around fear is doomsday events. If you look at all patriarch religions, if you look at all heliocentric origins and all of the ideology that's associated with all of this Western ideology that rules the world today, it foundates itself on doomsday events, and it can only rule with fear. Whereas ancient cosmology is centered around a mother goddess that ruled with comfort, protection, balance, and love, people. Ma'at means balance. So I said all that to say this. You rule out of the fear of doomsday events. These doomsday events were not possible in ancient cosmology. It's not possible when you look at this cosmology. The only way these doomsday events are possible is with the globe, with the Bible, with the heliocentric cosmos. So now you're starting to see how when these invaders came into the land and gave us the Bible, they had to give us the globe and make the globe along with these religions. If you guys haven't noticed, all of the religions support the globe and all of the heliocentric globe models support all of the religions. Now, the key thing about all of this, when we trace all of these religions back to their early roots, we see that they all started in flat earth cosmology and that over time they were revised by different occult members to incorporate the spirit globe in there because they were learning the science of how to make human slaves. The first solar system resembled the hypnotization spiral for a reason, brothers and sisters. We are still zombies today thinking we're going 1,000 miles per hour. So when we realize our feet is on unmovable ground and we be still in our minds, we can channel all of the information of the ancients. But until you undo all of the ideology that created the matrix in your mind, you can't even see the totality. You can't see the holistic reality that we live in and what the ancients was trying to describe. So when we talk about the sky goddess Nut, she descended from the primordial waters of Nu. And when we talk about Nu, which became later corrupted and turned into this Big Bang universe. Also, when we talk about Nu, we talk about Mama Nuwa. And when we say Nuwa, we're talking the waters of Nu, which was the beginning of everything. So the ancient Chinese mother goddess Nuwa is telling you the same thing our Kemetic ancestors was telling you with the cosmology. Nu and Wa. Okay, the waters of Nu became the Chinese goddess Nu-Wa. And if you look at this Chinese goddess, she got all the same symbolism of the serpent goddess that the Aztecs have, which is this same deity. We're talking about the original mother goddess, which is, we're talking about the first deity on the planet before there was even written text, y'all. And I got videos coming on this in the future. Stay tuned. We still dealing with Nu right now. We ain't even got off the sky goddess Nut yet, because I'm finna break this whole thing down to you about this arch that she's making. That's very significant. Again, this is the Arch of the Covenant. There's no such thing as an Ark of the Covenant. That's baloney. This is the Arch of the Covenant that's been hidden. Now, until you accept this truth that I'm giving you, you're going to keep looking for some stupid ark that you're never going to find, but keep on looking for it because you're blinded by your ego, don't want to see the truth in front of your face like a fool. So we're going to move on, and we're still dealing with the sky goddess Nut, and we're talking about the etymology. We're dealing with this Nu root because this is very significant, like I showed you previously. This Nu root also is the root word of nun. Now we about to get real deep, because if you look at nuns and if you look at their headdress is made to shape just like this ancient cosmology. As you can see here, guys, this is the same concept. Now, you may say that's just a coincidence. No, it's not, brothers and sisters. Everything we do is as above, so below. It comes from from the cosmology, and as we move on, I'm gonna show you none of this stuff is a coincidence. They put the little block inside of that nun hat so it can make this arch that you see the sky goddess Nut making. So you still think it's a coincidence that the root word of nun is new, and that the root word of Nut is new, and that the nun headdress makes the exact same arch that Nut makes. Okay, understand that Nut represents the dome, and that your head is the dome. As above, so below. So when we talk about the king's crown, all of those tips of the crown represents how the energy flow out of the dome, how the pole energy flow out of the dome. The dome is actually solid, just like your head is solid, but the energy that flow out of your solid dome is your thoughts. So it's as above, so below. You got a solid dome with energy constantly flowing out in the form of thoughts. And the same thing with this cosmic egg. There's a solid dome. We're enclosed in with a constant energy flow that we call pole energy. There's only one pole. That's the North Pole. That's why all compasses point north. What you're calling the South Pole, again, it's a huge ring that surrounds the Earth plane. Now, I believe there are many lands beyond this ice. I believe after certain miles, we start to open up and see land again. And I believe there are many continents that are being hidden. And I believe that we're like in the Truman Show, and all of the world we are allowed to see is the few continents right here. But I do believe there are many more areas beyond the ice and different people that might not even know about us. And I believe that the governments all have treaties and may be using all of these humans in these hidden worlds like energy or resources, while they travel back and forth knowing that this plane is infinite, but keeping us separated. People showed up at airports with passports, what they said, from languages that they don't even know of. It's been people show up and they said these people from different dimensions and different worlds who speak languages they never heard on this planet, and they passport got stamps and seals on it from whole nother places we never saw on Earth. But I'm telling y'all, outer space is fake. Ain't nothing out there. All of the land and all of the other areas is beyond the ice ring. There are different little openings or little, areas like Earth inside of this grid. But I believe that there may be domes that separate each one. But I do believe that there may be pockets of land before you reach the end of them domes, or maybe not. Maybe endless ice that maybe the creator made it so that we can't reach the end of the dome to actually see the dome. But stay tuned for Operation Fishbowl, because NASA supposedly made it to the solid dome when they went far out into the ice. But I'm gonna stay on track here. When we talk about new being a root word of numbers, the first humans, when they studied the stars, they started to count them. That gave birth to what's called numbers, because each time they counted, they had to create a digit or, some type unit, the mark. That's why numbers are called numbers, because they look up to Nut to create the numbers or the numbers that was created from the universe. Notice every college is called a university because the first school was the universe. It was the stars. This was when the math was started. Simply by looking up, acknowledging those stars, the human brain is going to count, not even trying to. You're going to acknowledge multiple light fixtures, and you're going to count simply when you refer to each one. So the act of counting using numbers come from Nut, or the sky, or the universe. That's why the root word of numbers is new. That's why the nun wears the headdress of Nu or Nut, which shapes in this arch design that we see all over ancient cosmology. So now we understand about the nun. Just like the priest wear the robe is feminine because of the mother goddess. When you look at the priest robe, I forgot the name of it, but it's the banner hanging from his shoulder. You notice it wraps around his neck, and it's like his scarf, and it hangs over his robe. And you notice that it's always even. You don't see one side of the scarf on one shoulder hanging longer than the other one. They make sure it's always even because that represents balance. Each part of that scarf is a scale, and this is the concept of ma'at that we see with the judge, because the judge got the robe on. And if you look at the courtroom, it's made in that same layout of the ancient cosmology. The judge wear the robe because because the woman brings the justice. This is why Ma'at is always a woman and not a man. The woman holds the scales and brings the balance. That's why today man rule the world and it ain't no balance. There is no justice. The law system corrupted because man represents ego. That's why when you go back to all of the ancient mother goddess stories and mythologies, you will see during the rising of the patriarch, during those gender wars, when the man was trying to overthrow the matriarch, you will see the mother goddess Kali. You will see out of these goddesses trampling over the man, because in the ancient world during this time, the male deity represented ego in all of the ancient mythology. That's why when the male deities later started creating the cosmology and becoming the creators of the cosmology, the male deities even created the cosmologies out of ego, out of destruction, out of explosions, and then they ruled the inhabitants out of fear. Okay, all male deities can't escape their ego. This is why the God of the Bible is a jealous God. This is why when you deal with the black conscious community who's supposed to be out of the religious state, they have the most ego, because what comes along with all of the pharaohs and male Kemetic deities, again, is this ego energy that we can see during the blending period. The matriarch goddesses was trying to overthrow this male energy, all right, because the balance was being lost with the ego. So here we are today, completely in chaos, not balanced. The woman is nowhere in the cosmology, and all of the religion, she's to blame for sin. The earth is taught to be a curse. Your mother is a curse for creating your sinful body. Everything is an attack on the divine feminine. They say planet X is something to be scared of because it's headed toward earth to kill us, when really earth itself is planet X, because like I told you, the symbol for planet X is a circle with an X on it, and that represents the cosmic egg of the divine feminine. It's nothing to be scared of. They created this doomsday planet X to rule you in fear. That's the only way patriarchs can rule. But when we deal with matriarch cosmology, the mother rule with love and security, like you see in all of the ancient cosmologies. When we get into these weird solar systems, it gets scary and you are being ruled with fear. And if you listen to all of these Kemetic cats get up there speaking, they'll tell you all kind of crap, how if you don't believe them and you disagree, the sun will burn you up, you know, your consciousness ain't how, and you de-evolving, and you know, your pineal gland is calcified, all of this mumbo jumbo to create a cult, to give you some type of knowledge that, hey, if you don't accept it from me, some bad gonna happen to you because you don't believe me. When really the stuff I'm giving to y'all, I don't care if you accept it or not, or if you believe me or not, because it's not a matter of belief what I'm giving to you. I'm showing you pictures right in front of your face that you can't deny. So it's not a matter of you not believing me, it's just a matter of you not accepting the truth. It'll be a matter of you believing me or not believing me if I was giving you my opinion. But since I'm giving you ancient facts, it's not a matter of belief. So let's move on. So as you can see with all of the slides that's been before you, when we talk about new, we can see this same root word to this original goddess and plenty more concepts and words. And here's another one. This female goddess that you are looking at now, her name is Refnumesh, and she is a form of the serpent goddess. Do your research on the Aztec serpent goddess. You'll see that the Aztecs represented this serpent goddess was nothing but the original mother goddess Nu, or Mama Nuwa, or in ancient Kemet, the sky goddess Nut. Or if you want to go back to ancient Kush, we can get into the original mother goddesses, and even before there were even gods and goddesses, just the symbol of the yoni, which was the original cosmos. So people, I'm taking y'all back to the beginnings before the corruption took place. And if you look at it, you can see the truth. All you have to do after that is accept it and don't mind being talked about because you went outside of the social norm. So again, this goddess is called Refnumesh, and she's a form of the serpent goddess, the mother goddess. We all come from the serpent goddess, but we don't come from fish men like they tried to convince us with. They say that the Sirius star system gave birth to these Dagons or fish gods called Nomos, okay? and that these nomos is actually black people's ancestors. They say that we're serpent people who originated from these fish people, fish gods and serpent creatures. I'm telling you people that you can't take this stuff literally. People, you can't take this stuff literally. My brothers and sisters, free your mind. We don't literally come from no fish people, no snake people. Sirius is deception. It's not no physical place out there in space called Sirius. We come from the earth, y'all. Now, we don't come from no serpent creatures. We come from the serpent goddess. And this is not a literal person. This is a deity. The reason they say black people come from the serpents and the serpent men is because we come from the serpent cosmology. We were the Nagas, the Nagini. We were the people who were very familiar with the serpent wisdom or the wisdom of balance. We were able to build pyramids in Kemet because we understood how to balance blocks. It's so simple that it's complex. It's so simple that our ancestors built the pyramids simply because they knew the earth was flat and balanced and that it didn't move. That simple fact let them know they can build a pyramid on a non-moving ground, and they can build this base of this pyramid miles and miles across, and they don't have to account for no curvature because they ain't on a globe. All right, so the base of every pyramid is flat. That's the secret of the pyramids, people, is that they was built because the builders knew that the earth was flat. Not no deep crap they give y'all in these sci-fi movies talking about the pyramids was built by aliens. They was built by mental telepathy and telekinesis. They was built by, all of this dumb crap, y'all. They was built the same way we build nice skyscrapers and stuff today. We can't keep on desecrating the ancients. The ancients weren't dummies. We the dumbest today. Now, this stuff was built the same way stuff built today. The architects today understand that the earth is flat. That's why they able to build all of this stuff. And this is why most of your builders and architects are in secret societies. This is why the word architect, the root word of architect is arch. Because the first architect is who I keep telling y'all about, the sky goddess Nut. She created the cosmos. All right, so back to this ancient Kemetic cosmology. Like I said, this ain't the oldest form because Nut come from the original mother goddess Nu. It's all the same thing. And when we talking about Nu, this is the root word of Nubia. Understand that when you say Nubia, you're talking about Kush. So the root word of Nubia is also Nu, in honor of the first mother goddess Nu, who is responsible for the primordial waters of the universe. Just like all eggs in a mother's fetal sac starts with waters on the outside and waters on the inside, it's the same thing in our cosmology where you got waters on the outside and waters on the inside. It's as above, so below. We cannot escape this cosmology. The people of Nubia, we will see this same concept pop up all over the world in the names and in the cosmology. Even when you go to the Dogons in Mali, the word Mali starts with Ma in honor of this matriarch cosmology. And when you look at the Kananga, you're looking at the bee goddess, the beetle goddess that I explained in previous videos. Also, when you say the word Dogon backwards, it's no God, because when you go all the way back to the early cosmology, there's no gods in none of this cosmology. As I stated, it was centered around the goddesses and the original trinity, the X chromosome. When we talk about the matriarch, we're talking about the Immaculate Conception. We talk about the Black Madonna, we revere it, but we don't want to take it literally for some reason. We know that the X chromosome predates the Y, but we say, hey, there was actually a time where the women populated the planet before men. Exactly, guys. Man is a result of the Immaculate Conception. So this go back, all of this stuff is divine. And we see the woman and the X chromosome being worshipped in indigenous tribes all over the world, in the most ancient tribes all over. And the reason we don't know this is because this concept, this science is hidden in cosmology. If all you know of is a globe, you will never know of the mother goddess. So when we talk about Nu and we talk about Nubia, we're talking about about a land that goes back to the mythologies and the ideologies of the primordial waters of Nu, the original mother goddesses. This later became to be patriarchal deities like Vishnu that we see in a lot of Indian cultures. So this Nu root we see popping up all over the place. And also this Vesna is the old Slavic goddess of spring and awakening. Her name means messenger. She was a protector of her people, especially the women. She returns from the underworld at the vernal equinox, bringing springtime along. Understand that spring, we're talking Easter energy. When we're talking Easter energy, what you're talking about is eggs that they give you for this holiday, because when you say Easter, you're saying Ishtar, which is a goddess, not a god. It became a male deity after corruption, but the original Ishtar is a goddess. All of these eggs symbolizing fertility, and Ishtar is the same concept of Hathor in Kemet, but in Hathor's case you have the horns representing the cow, which represents fertility, and the milk and everything. You know, the son sucks on the mother's breast for milk. This became the Milky Way, which shapes like a spiral, and the spiral is really the womb of the woman. So when we get into cosmology, we've been deceived because they take all of this symbolism and re-give it to you under a patriarchal ideology, and it resonates with your spirit so much that you will go against your true history when the truth come your way. So I'm not going to get on Easter and Ishtar right now, but I will be doing future videos on this stuff. It's so much to get into. We're still on the root word Nu, the waters of Nu. Vesna is another form of Nu. So this was originally posted on Facebook by Kushite Kemetic Spiritual Science. I don't know much about them other than I just saw this picture up there and it reminded me of the mother goddess Kali. It reminded me of a lot of these four-arm mother goddesses that I've been breaking down to you guys. This is simple cosmology. When you look at the design, it's the Tibetan wheel. When you look at the mother goddess Kali, you look at this symbol right here and the four arms. It's the same thing you get with Goro on Mortal Kombat. You notice you meet Goro at the end, just like you meet God at the end of your life, and that God was represented this way as mother goddess. Understand that Goro and these four-armed creatures come from our ancient ancestors. Understand that the four arms is nothing to fear. This is not a literal creature. What you're looking at is simply the X with the line in the middle. So this was one way that our ancestors, just say for example, they drew the X with the line in the middle for so long that they started personifying these concepts. So you started getting these deities like this with the four arms, which simply represents the X with the line in the middle. And the reason that symbol is so important is because this what creates the triangle. Remember, the angle is the angel. The tri is the Trinity. Who is the Trinity angel? It goes right back again to Ma'at with the wings. And what they teach us about these angels with wings is really what we're talking about, Ma'at. She creates these angles. Each wing is an angle that forms the T. The T is the balances scale. The T represents the Trinity. The T represents the 3 because it's 3 points. When you trace the T out, you get the triangle because of these 3 points. So the T is the tri, the T is the tree, the T is the tri, the T is the 3. Don't let none of that confuse you. Look at the picture in front of you. We got to start saying holistic. The X with the line in the middle represents all of this cosmology. We build everything in our existence like this. Even your macabre is made this way, and it can all be summed up with this goddess you see in front of you. The X with the line in the middle, okay? That's the Trinity. That's the original Trinity. That's even how the X chromosome look. This is how an atom look. We know Adam was the first person created in the patriarch cosmology, and that's a lie. The first thing in existence is X. This is why in math it's the unknown. X is 0. Like I told you, all numbers were birthed from 0, and all numbers can go into 0. 0 can go into all numbers. This is why 0 is really infinity. But you live in a world where you've been taught that 0 means nothing. And the reason they taught you 0 means nothing is because these the same people who created outer space for you. You live in a cosmic egg, and there is no such thing as voidness or emptiness. So the people who gave you zero as nothingness. They gave you that concept along with outer space. So when you look up in the sky and you have a concept of outer space that there's nothing there, then you look at the letter zero, you don't see the symbolism of the zero. You look at a zero and all you see is nothing. But really the zero represents the egg. The zero represents the place where it all starts. It represents the black hole where there is no numbers. So when they talk to you about the black hole, that everything starts from the black hole, what they're really trying to tell you is everything starts from zero, from X, from the cosmic womb, from the spiral, which became the Milky Way. So the Milky Way wasn't birthed from no black hole. The black hole hides the truth that there's a cosmic mother. There is an entity responsible for creation. Now, if you accept the solar system they give you, that makes you an atheist because there is no deity in it. All of the ancient cosmology has a deity. So again, zero represents creation, the cosmic egg. They start your numbers from 1 today. 1 represents the phallus. That's the obelisk. The 0 gives birth to the 1. Just like the mother gives birth to the son, the wombs give birth to the phallus. The first thing was the womb. The males came with the phalluses later. Just like when you look at a plus sign and a subtraction sign, you got the subtraction sign inside of the plus sign. But when you look at the subtraction sign, the minus sign, the one that takes away, it's lacking one of the lines. But the plus sign is the balance. It's both of them. As above, so below, creating the X also. So the X is the plus sign. By the woman having the X, she can create the Y, which is the minus sign, by dividing herself. And that is called the Immaculate Conception. Because if she has the X, she can take a leg off of that to create the Y. And that's how we can have the Y chromosome. If you look at the alphabet, you'll notice even in the alphabet that the X come before the Y, X, Y, Z. So it's all for a reason, brothers and sisters. The 0 comes before the 1. The womb came before the phallus. All right. When we talk about the black hole, it represents a place in space where NASA tell you where nothing makes sense. At the center of a black hole, all of your ideologies break down. At the center of a black hole, math doesn't matter. Science doesn't matter. A black hole is what happens. Put it this way, we don't know everything, but if you knew everything there was to know, you would turn into a black hole. That's where all of your math breaks down. That's where you reach the last number it is to reach. What's the highest number in the world? Think about it. Number and amount is perception, because after you get past 1 trillion, it really just is infinity. And you really start going up and up past that, you realize there's really no such thing as amount. It's just one big thing. That's why you can have 0 point infinity before you even get to 1. If you want to deal with decimal numbers, you can have 0.99999 for infinity before you get to 1. So what is what? What is amount? It's an illusion based upon your perception. There is no amount. There is only one existence, and all things in it makes up that one existence. So the idea of separatism and the ideas that we've been given with the heliocentric model goes against ancient Kemetic cosmology, goes against the truth that I'm trying to give you here today. To understand the cosmology, you got to understand the mother goddess, you got to understand the cosmic womb, you got to understand the significance of ground zero, because Earth is ground zero. Earth is planet X. And I just broke down to you the significance of the 0. Nothing can escape it. All things come from it, and all things go back to it. 0 is infinity. It represents the 360. So in the middle of that 0 is where heaven is. It's the line that splits the 0 and creates heaven. It's the lance that centers the ball and creates balance. And this is how we get our cosmos, people. We live on that line. We live on that earth plane in the center of this cosmic egg. And you have to know this and know your place in this cosmos, as above, so below, so you can understand the truth about our human spirituality. Because until you understand the cosmology, you running in circles lost. Your spirit is lost because it wants to get back to the truth. truth. You cannot set your spirit free as long as your foundation is on lies. You think you spinning on a globe and God is at the edge of an infinite bottomless pit universe. And I'm showing you that the mother goddess resides in the middle of our cosmos. We have no fears because we're enclosed in a dome, a solid firmament that's firm. There was a covenant made by the mother, and she said we can dwell in this abode and we don't have to question the stability of it. The people who rule us today rule us because they get us to ignore the covenant. They get us to ignore the covenant. People, we breaking the covenant because the evil people who rule us ruling us through fear. They telling us that this place can be destroyed. They telling us we better accept their pagan gods as we're going to die and earth is going to be crashed into by our planet and all of this doomsday stuff. And we believe it because we forget the ancient covenant, the arch of the covenant. The goddess Nut is showing you that we protected by this solid dome and that nothing can crash into earth because stars are not solid places. Stars are luminaries. They're holographic light fixtures. They're projections. And there is water on the outside of this dome. Okay, so when you realize the true cosmology, you lose your fears and they can't rule you through the doomsday fears. They can't rule you and control your spirituality. Real quick to show y'all more what I mean about the etymology of the way we spell the numbers and the way we pronounce the alphabets, the way they look. To give you another example of balance, just like I did with the H and the 8. So for example, what I mean about balance, let's take for example the number 11. The number 11 represents balance because it's two wands. These two wands create an invisible one in the middle by them being side by side. And it's called El Even or El Even. So El is a very popular root word. It goes back to this Saturn god that they're talking about is El, but they want to corrupt this science. El is balance. El is what you get when you say angel. Angel is the angle. If you look at an angle is an L. Okay? And that's what an angel is, an angle. So what we call angles in math or in geometry is the same thing they call angels in religion, but we separate them and we can't see that because we live in a world, like I said, that separates the creator from all of the learning. But when we go back to the ancient world, we can see why angels and angles mean the same thing. But a person will say, Brother Sanchez, stupid for saying that. They don't have a relation because that person is suffering from segmented reality. So back to what I'm saying about 11. El Even. El goes back to the alphabet L. If you look at a L, a capital L, like I said, it represents the angle. So when I said to you earlier about the Trinity angel, it goes into Ma'at. Ma'at is shaped like the letter T. The capital T is where we get our whole balance and scales from. These alphabets ain't nothing but ancient symbols, y'all. The symbols existed before the alphabets. So the capital T goes back to the Trinity angel or the triangle, which is Ma'at. The Trinity angel is Ma'at. She's the 3 points that make the T and the balances scales. So when we talk about the L, what makes her the angel makes this trinity. The angel makes this triangle. And this triangle is a trinity of angles that makes this sacred symbol. All right. And when you outline the T is for truth. That's why the balances scales is used in the court of law. If you look at the judge hammer today, the judge hammer descended from the balances scales. That's why it's shaped just like the T. So order in a court, the balances scales is where we get the capital T from, and the capital T is for truth. Okay, the courtroom is supposed to be built upon truth, but we know it's not today. So keep in mind that the triangle is a trinity of angles. That's what makes this sacred symbol, which is the arch of the yoni. Okay, and I'll be getting deeper and deeper into these alphabets in the future, so don't worry. So when you talk about the archangels in religion, it goes back to the sky goddess Nut. The sky goddess Nut make this arch, this angle, because an arch and a triangle or a pyramid and a dome structure geometry. It's the same exact thing, whether you round it or just have it rugged like the triangle. It's the same formula, okay? That's like a circle and a square is both 360. The arch and the triangle is the same. They're the Trinity angel, and it's represented by the sky goddess Nut, who is doing the arch with her back, making the firmament dome that we live in. So we have a beautiful reality if we want to look at it from the truth and accept the truth. But if you look at it from the solar system they give you, you start looking at it spooky. You get all of this spookism in the KEMETIC community where people telling you you got to make it through the Stargate, people after your spirit, different creatures gonna get you, and all of this, you got to make it cross light years to get through the wormhole. It can be spooky, but when you understand it's not that deep and they playing with our minds and they laughing at us, you say you fooled me once, but you ain't gonna fool me again. Accept this ancient truth, because I take the words of the ancients over NASA and the government any day. Now, again, when we talk about 11, we're talking about L even. The word 11 has the word even in it, and it's called L even because if you think of a lowercase l, that's what creates your number one. When you write two ones, you automatically create another one in between that. Just like when you draw out a W, you automatically create three V's or a triple vortex, what they call it, what makes your wings. I went over that in previous videos. The alphabets are glyphs that relate to cosmology. A lot of your deities in religion, such as Christianity, angels and all of these deities and etc., are really concepts, mathematical formulas that relate to ancient flat earth cosmology. So again, when you write the letter 11, you actually write a trinity, and this is no different than what Adidas give you. You can see 3 black stripes or you can see 2 white stripes. This is called perception, but when you see the totality, you see the wholeness, you see it all as a formula, and you see it all for what it is. You don't choose either or. 2 people stand up, one person say, hey, it's 3 stripes. One person say, hey, it's 2 stripes. And that's an example of segmenting the reality, because Brother Sanchez come along and say, hey guys, it's simply a trinity. All right. It's one thing at that point, and it's truth that it's a trinity, but you won't see that if you only see either or. Okay, when you talk about sacred geometry, you talk about existence, everything starts from a point of singularity or the dot or the reference. After that comes the line. So that's what I keep telling y'all about. The 0 comes first, then the 1. When you put them together, you get the cosmic egg or the lance ball that creates balance. So when you think about the meaning of Adidas as given by Outkast, all day I dream about sets, and sets being the act of creation, it all makes sense that Adidas would have a trinity which represents that sacred act. And I'm going to continue to blow your mind now. Let's move on. So that's just an example to give you more in your mind of what I mean about the numbers and the alphabets or symbols, and it's everything is everything. We're going to move on here because we're still on new. The reason I talked about the numbers and the reason I'm dealing with balance is because we're dealing with the divine feminine, which is nothing but balance. When we talk about heaven, H is silent. The H is actually a symbol of balance because it's half, like I said, and heaven actually means even. When we talk about balance, that's what heaven is. We won't experience heaven until we get back in balance on earth. And earth and heart represents the same thing, because earth is the heart of the cosmos, aka Midgard. So the only reason I went into the numbers, because all numbers represent balance when you learn to see holistically. All numbers is just a story, a concept. Each number connected tell a beautiful story, and they all tell a story within themselves of the goddess Nu and the way our reality was created. The earth is not really a physical place, y'all. And I know this sounds crazy, but physicality isn't what you think it is. A lot of us think that we're gonna go beyond earth out the death into these spiritual realms, but anywhere you go, any phase of existence you assume becomes physicality. Any state you in becomes physicality. There is no state that is not made of material. When you say material, the root word is ma. We're talking about matter. Any form of existence you exist in is going to be a material form, whether it's solid, liquid, or gas. Even if you exist in light form, that's still a form of physicality. These are the phases of existence we take during our cosmic journey. We don't go anywhere. We actually just transition through phases. This is what happens when we travel through the elements, the elements, that root word El again, all right? And this is, again, the root word of your Elohim. They say that Saturn, the god of Saturn, is El, but remember that Saturn is just the cosmic egg. And I got a future video coming in breaking down the mythology of every planet, started from Mercury and working my way all the way up to Pluto. Gonna do a whole series, videos on each planet, getting real deep, showing y'all the mythology and the gods associated with the planet and why they're associated with the planet. Now that we know the planets aren't solid physical places, it's important for me to break down to you the NASA deception and what they was trying to put on the subconscious when they gave us these planets and the mythology that was attached to them. So everything served an agenda when they created the matrix that we in today. So dealing with Nu and the primordial waters of Nu and the goddess of creation, we got to deal with numbers or numbers, okay? And that's why in the Bible you also have a book of numbers. So understand that the first number is 0, but no number is really a number. When we say number, we're saying number. These are all pieces of the goddess. So I'll be getting deep into that numbers and numerology in the future, so you can see all about, like I said, this new root ties into the nuns and the goddess energy. It all goes back to Nu. So now we're gonna move on. So one thing I wanted to point out before we move on about this picture that I got from this Facebook posting here is that this goddess you're looking at comes from Kushite cosmology, and this is the black lion god Apademak, and this is the internal energy, okay? The microcosm of the macrocosm. So the supreme being that lives in you, the internal potential, okay? And you notice it's the same way of Mama Kali. It represents this cosmology. Now, the person who posted this probably is a spearhead globe earther. And what comes along with that is you would take this as a form of cockiness and ego, and you'll miss the balance. Mama Kali restores balance. So she comes to restore this balance. So this same deity we looking at from this Facebook post, the black lion god of Kushite, it just goes to show you that our Ethiopian ancestors had this same cosmology that we see practiced in India, and this same flat earth cosmology that I've been showing y'all with the mother goddess Kali. And again, Vishnu as well. You can find it everywhere. So this go back to Kushite ancestors, which predates Kemet. We understand that Kemet is a child of Ethiopia. We can't escape the mother, y'all. Even when we go back to Kush, we see her everywhere. But you can see the beginning of the male patriarch rising in Kemet. So Kemet is where the corruption began. And I'm going to get into all of this and how we get to be corrupted and so lost today. Often when you see this KEMETIC cosmology, at the end on the outside of the firmament, at the bottom right, you can see the gentleman holding his hands up in the touchdown manner. So you can see the gentleman with both of his hands up in that manner. And what that symbolizes is simply heaven. It symbolizes balance. It symbolizes the upper realm. It symbolizes transformation. It symbolizes the mother. It symbolizes touchdown. Because when you touch down, that's when the body go in the ground. If you look at a football field, there's 2 ends for touchdowns. The football field was made in the image of our cosmos. The 50-yard line would be the earth plane. That's Midgard. That's where the yin meets the yang. And before every game, you notice that the team leaders and the referees meet where? At the 50-yard line. All right, this is where it happens at, people. This is the field. The earth is the field. At each end of this field, above you and below you, are transitioning realms. There's a 360-degree square white bound line that surrounds the field to keep the players in bounds, and that is the same for the earth. There's a white 360 ice ring that surrounds the earth. Now, in the future, I'm going to get into the etymology of the word south, because south actually represents a a 360 ice ring around the earth. That's why when you get into the etymology of south, you're dealing with the root word OU, meaning out or out. South mean out because that's the out of bounds area for the earth. So anytime you see OU, you dealing with out or outside. Notice that south is the only direction that has the OU, and it's dealing with the outer ring. And when you say around, you have the OU. Even when you say bound or bounds, you got the OU present. Even when you say found, because that's what they did when they reached the outermost parts of the earth. They found the boundaries. Okay, they found the boundary. So that OU is dealing with the outer ring. It's the out. It's that outermost region that man must expound upon, because there are many newfound lands in this region. I believe there are many lands beyond these bounds that are yet to be found. Okay, and when we deal with OU, we know that these lands are rough lands and they are tough lands because of the weather. And when you say rough and tough, that's dealing with the out or the southern region, because when you dwell on these lands, if you're not equipped for the weather, you know the frost bites will make you say ouch. You got to keep in mind that the words you read on the paper are connected to sound. And we're dealing with our ancient ancestors who dealt mostly in the realm of sound and picture. So you got to take the words and begin to deal with the letters as pictures. You got to strip the words down to their very foundation. And like I say, stay tuned for future videos on that. We're going to get back on track with the end zones, back with the KEMETIC cosmology. And when we talk about found with the OU root, a lot of your first original lands had that for their name, like Newfoundland, okay? A foundation, something that's a foundry, is foundated, mean you found it. So new lands was foundated upon this cosmology. We know that all ancient cosmologies had 4 foundations, unlike the heliosphere, which has no foundation at all. It's suspended in a vacuum of space. Those 4 foundations are important in ancient cosmology because they represent the 360. The 4 corners of the earth is nothing but Antarctica. There is no South Pole. It's a South Ring. When we talk about Saturn, we're talking about Satan. We're talking about Lucifer. Lucifer is the morning star. We're talking about Venus, and Venus is nothing but the woman, the vagina. Okay, that's why all women products that they sell on TV is named after Venus, and they have all of these V's on all of the women products and stuff, because the planet Venus is linked to the vagina, to the woman. Okay, now I'm gonna get into all of that in the future, because astrology as you know it is bull crap. But brother Sanchez gonna free your mind. You have no fears about Satan or Saturn or no being recycled in no figure 8, because the 8 is the X chromosome and Venus is the cosmic womb, the divine feminine, the female energy. They have desecrated the woman for too long, and I must give us the truth. So I'll be doing that etymology in the future on OU. It's also where we get the word ouch from, because it's an outward expression of pain. So it gets real deep. But back to the 2 end zones, this is where it happens at, people. This is the field. The earth is the field. At each end of this field, above you and below you, are transitioning realms. And these can be looked at as end zones, or what they call in football touchdowns. But like they say, they are called end zones, because when you go in the ground, it's the end, but it's always a new beginning. So when you see the arms like that, the NFL and all of these referees are not doing nothing original. They get all of this symbolism from the ancients, people. And here's a collage that show you a lot of this symbolism with the hands extended. And now we're just going to move on and look at some more goddesses to show y'all that this is a very common pose amongst the ancestors, and we still dealing with goddess Nu. And what I want to point out is the picture you're looking at now is the goddess Nephthys, and she's the goddess of death and life. And as you can see, look at her arms. People, even Ma'at arms are doing the same thing. Ma'at's wings are doing the same thing. This is what I'm saying. When you see the goddess with the arms up, even with the goddess Kali have the forearms, she have 2 down and 2 up. This is representing those end zones. This is representing the underworld and the heavenly realm above. These 2 realms is what allow us to even have an existence here in Midgard, or what we call Earth. Understand that if you take any of these realms away, the whole cosmic egg will fall apart. This is one system. So again, this is the goddess Nephthys, and she's the goddess of death and life, and you can see her in this famous pose. Keep that in mind. All of these goddesses control death and life. Even the ancient solar disk deity Sekhmet, her thing wasn't just the solar disk, the sun. It was mainly her power over life and death. So we understand that the goddess is given this very powerful attribute, and this is because the mother is the god. Everyone is born at the mercy of their mother. What if your mother would have gave birth to you and flushed you down the toilet? That's why everybody bound worshiping all of these male gods. But the Pope, who over all of these religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, the 3-headed dragon, he worships the mother. Think about it. What if the Virgin Mary would have had an abortion? Nas told y'all that in the rap song. He was telling y'all about the yoni worship. It all starts with the mother. There was no divinity in Jesus. These patriarchal deities were only personifications of the sun, and the sun goes back to Sekhmet, the goddess of life and death. But that role was taken away when these patriarch deities was created. So back to the mother role. Look at all of this crap going on with these women killing these babies. So the first form of God, the first deity that you're at the mercy of, is your mother. In fact, your mother don't have to do none of that harmful stuff to you. She can be a great mother, but she can lack certain things that she don't teach you as a child that'll make you a miserable adult. So the mother role is so important because she has the human during the time that his mind is growing. When the mind is growing, it's easy to teach. This is why children pick up so quick. The mother is really God in the flesh if you want to look at who has the power over your life the most in this realm. So when we talk about reincarnation, what the ancients talked about, they were very serious about the way they treated the women and the way they did their society, because the ancients knew that you come back here to this plane. Karma is real. What you do here determine how you come back. So just think about what I said, because you do a lot of stuff in this life, you die and you think you got away with it, and you don't realize that this is a continuum and that you have to repay that debt under the laws of Ma'at, okay? And part of you repaying that is being born again in some miserable ways. When you look around at the world and you see everybody going through their own little struggles, even the people who you think got it good, they still go through struggles. Everybody got to pay for all of their karma. The big trick was to get you to believe that another person can pay for your karma, like Jesus and all of these other gods, like they can die for your wrongs. And that's like me committing a murder and then telling the police, hey y'all, my brother said he gonna serve life for me, and they letting me, the killer, walk free. Come on, y'all. Y'all think God is that stupid? We've been misled, people. And this is one of the main reasons the world's so messed up, because everybody believing I can do you how I want to do you, and go in a corner and pray to my different little God in secret and ask for forgiveness from God, but not ask for forgiveness for the person that I wrong. It gets so bad that people be wishing evil on each other through their gods. You will hear people say stuff like Jesus gonna do something to somebody because they wronged them, or what Kemetic people may say, the sun will burn you up, or maybe some of these Kemetic gods will eat you up or something. Different people are using their gods and sicking them on each other like dogs, and that's probably why God is dog backwards. When you think about war, you got Muslims praying to their God that they gonna safely kill the other person, and the Christians praying to their God that they're gonna safely kill the other person, when we're all the children of one supreme being, killing each other out of ignorance. Everybody gonna pay for everything they did, and this is how they ruling us through our own karma. A lot of the pain we experience in this life based on bad decisions we make, that they seeding into our day-to-day actions and psyche. So if you want to get more into the deception of Christianity and religion, check out my playlist revealing the truth about Christianity. We're gonna move on. There's no such thing as sin, people, okay? There are laws to the universe to keep balance and to ensure that evil don't prevail. hell. What I'm saying is that what we're calling sin is just right and wrong. It's simple. When you make it into sin, you turn it into a corporate system, and you got this list of do's and don'ts. It's okay to do this, but not okay to do that. The Bible will teach you, it's okay to eat meat, and it's okay to do certain things that goes against nature. So according to the Bible, government is okay. Ruling over people in slavery is okay. At some cases in the Bible, rape was okay. Why did I get on the Bible right now? Because right now we're dealing with ancient cosmology, and the spirituality is tied up in the cosmology. So when you look at this ancient Kemetic cosmology, the people who had this cosmology, their spirituality can be summed up in one word, and that one word is ma'at. The root word of that is ma. Okay, so I went into that in previous videos. Just go ahead and catch up on a series. So back to the positioning of these arms, this is very divine. It symbolizes death and life. It symbolizes transformation. Here is a chart full of hieroglyphic symbols. I'm gonna actually take this whole chart and do a video on these charts by themselves. I have a few of these with a lot of glyphs on them and different gods and goddesses. I'm gonna do a whole video on these by themselves. The only reason I want to point this out right now, because I don't want to take up all the time going into each symbol, is just to go back to our hands up symbol again. You can see here on the second row, the first symbol is your hands up, don't shoot, which represents the Ka, or the spirit. So all of this hands up, don't shoot that you see right now with the police injustices, it's all ritualistic. And while your cosmology and your true origins is hidden right in front of your face, they got everybody focused on the injustices. They got everybody focused on the race wars. They got everybody focused on the martial law that ain't came yet. They got everybody focused on the cataclysms that ain't came yet. They got everybody talking about global warming. Hey, it's beautiful outside here. They got everybody talking about this, talk about that. But when I start telling you about this deep stuff here, this is what they don't want you talking about. So again, you see your symbol of life and death right here on the hieroglyphic chart. And those arms raised mean Ka, spirit. So what did we originally say? We said that these hands raised by the goddess Nephthys symbolizes death and life. This is because the spirit is what's used to transition in. So understand that spirit, life, and death all go hand in hand. Understand that spirit is the true essence of who we are. So what I mean by that is when you're placed in the ground, your essence, your spirit transitions into another body. And that's called the cosmic journey. And that's why you see those boats outside of the cosmos. Now, one thing I want to point out about this Kemetic cosmos is that some people still think what they looking at is a globe, Earth, solar system, when all of the ancients had this same design, and they all said the earth was flat and that we were enclosed in a dome. Why do we ignore the ancient truth and take just what we want to take? That's called not keeping it real, people. All right? You got to let go of all of the stuff you've been given, or you're not out the matrix and you don't deserve to be telling nobody nothing if you walking around thinking you spinning on a globe like a fool. And I'm sitting here giving you the truth. Now, what you want to pay attention to with this ancient Kemetic cosmos is that it's just that. The cosmos is not a solar system. It's not a planet. It's the entire cosmos. So when you see the sky goddess Nut bent with all of those stars in her body, those stars in her body represents every twinkling light you see in the night sky. Anything outside of the sky goddess Nut is not the stars. You're now into the realm of the waters above, going into the heavenly realms. But Nut represents the dome. She represents the night sky. Everything they've been telling you about light years, solar systems away, and Sirius so far away, and Andromeda and these different galaxies, that's baloney. Because this is the cosmos, what you're looking at. This one body, this one system. Every star in the night sky is represented in the sky goddess Nut. So this one depiction is the entire cosmos. There are no other galaxies and solar systems and all of that crap. This is it. This is our existence, what you're looking at. And it's important that you start to grasp that, my brothers and sisters. It's hard for me not to be passionate with this.